So
I just have a feeling that we were cheated into this, but that's all right because it is what it is. And our energy levels are quite high for 6 o'clock in the evening. No, 5:45 in the evening. So just stay with us, please, for 25 minutes. Smile your way through because we've really tried to smile our way through this. And let's hope it's just going to be an interesting session. So we are here today, joined all together by this conference and the same topic that has run all day again. So we are not going to promise you something that you did not know, no grand pearls of wisdom, but just coming from where we are and what we do and in our industry. And so hopefully, again, we keep you not entertained, but we keep you alive, not with all that extra excitement that you saw as well. So I'm just going to quickly go into a little bit of what I needed as a framework to prepare for this. And many of you would probably have read through the McKinsey framework before on what the future skills are. You've read through the McKinsey framework? People familiar with that? Somewhat? Okay, maybe. I see some very tentative nods. So McKinsey identified 3 foundational elements that are actually critical and relevant for the future. Now, these were actually looked at as what can actually be done beyond automation. So we've sort of crossed that digital literacy, what can be automated, and then where we still need humans. And in those, they identified a mix of about 56 skills and attitudes. And they defined that as deltas, which are distinct element of talent. Now, McKinsey can only be the one doing frameworks within frameworks, but just stay with me. There are 4 things that McKinsey actually identified, which also spoke to me because I do feel old and I think I'm not going to be doing too much digital in my life. So what else do I have to offer? So the 4 elements of the McKinsey framework that came back is the skills of the future are divided into cognitive, interpersonal, self-leadership, and digital. And what they also went on to say after that, and I think that's an important one when you start to think about it, is the weakest amongst all of these were actually cognitive skills. And more specifically, under cognitive skills, it was planning and ways of working, communication. And then under digital skills, it was along software use and development. Software use, I'm thinking I'm very geriatric, and understanding digital systems. Yeah, I mean, we all know from phone and technology usage as well. So the more important point that we sort of start to come to when we get our heads around future skills, people, how is our workforce looking, and thinking along these lines is primarily if you needed to look at what is important from an employability point of view, and what are the skills correlated for employability, you start to look at the ability to synthesize messages, coping with uncertainty and adaptability. When you start to think of high income, that is correlated to self-confidence, work plan development, and organizational awareness. And when you start to think of job satisfaction, you're thinking of self-confidence, coping with uncertainty, self-motivation, and wellness. And you perhaps saw all of these things play out in the pandemic. And you saw what it actually meant for these complex mix of skills that actually started to come together. So I'm not going to say too much. At this point in time, I have some very eminent people with me with very different industry backgrounds. So I'm just going to open the floor and I'm going to ask 2 very simple questions. One is, what does our industry landscape look like for some of these skills? And then what are we going to do about skill development? Yeah. And the idea is 1 or 2 messages only that we will synthesize, not talk the world and bring the cousins home. Yeah. And with that, Div, can I ask you? Thank you.
So, can you all hear me? Okay. I would like to answer by starting with a question for the audience, right? So, how many of you have your data in a cloud storage today? Yeah, pretty much everyone, right? So that's what is exciting for us as Seagate, because Seagate is a provider of the data storage technology, one of the leading ones. And in the last 40 years of our history, we have shipped 3 terabytes. Actually, 3 zettabytes. So 3 zettabytes of data in the last 40 years. And especially in the last 2 years, even for those who would not have moved to cloud, have moved to hybrid or cloud storage. Think about gaming, think about, metaverse, think about, all these, OTT channels that we all binge on. All of this generates a lot of data, right? And that's what we need to deal with. So for us, we need to move from IT 2.0 skills to IT 4.0 skills. Skills like robotics, skills like advanced analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, cyber physical systems, cloud storage, and architecture. Now, for us, the biggest challenge because of this exciting opportunity is that we also do not have a real full solution to say whether we build those skills or buy those skills, because some of these skills are not even available in the market. So how do we build a product of the future with the skill of the future when it's not available so easily? So that's the exciting part and the challenge that we face in our industry.
Thank you, Dev. And speaking about skills and skill development and helping clients with new skills of the future, Bimal.
So for us, I think this, the very fact that there are so many people here at 5:45 in the evening in itself is very exciting. I mean, that kind of tells us how complex the problem is, and I think that is what. I mean, like I said, that's what the most exciting part is, that if you hear any commentary from any business leaders today, clearly one message which I think till very recently was largely spoken in more closed door conversations, but is coming out very openly now is that talent is their only constraint to growth. And whatever framework, with due respect to everyone who creates these frameworks, the fact is, talent is becoming a constraint, and organizations are becoming very, very focused in solving. It's a complex problem to solve. Having said that, the other exciting part is that there is dichotomy, because despite everything that organizations are doing, attrition for most organizations is very, very high. Employees are talking about burnout, they are leaving organizations. So obviously talent is thinking very differently. And for organizations of a player like us, really that's where the opportunity is, that this whole dichotomy of where most CEOs are today saying that they spend about 30% of their time on talent or talent related issues. And we have 30% attrition, right? So this dichotomy is what is very exciting for us.
Thank you. Over to you, Lohit. Again, a little bit of what Quest is actually facing. Quest, sorry. That was a very Dutch way. I'm Dutch. So what Quest is actually facing in terms of the changing landscape, you have such a variety, and I was fascinated by the 456,000 employee base. And you touched upon something very interesting in our conversation around near skilling. And that's different to Accenture's upskilling plus new skills. Something else that I found around reskilling, now near skilling. What's that about?
So you're right, and thanks. I think coming up to the stage itself was quite a bit of entertainment. I've been on a few stage shows like this, but I've never had music like that when you're coming on a stage as a speaker. So I almost thought as if we are going to be asked to dance or whatever. But having said that, 437,000 people, I think our biggest challenge is finding the right resource for the right organization. But while I can simply say that that is what we do on a daily basis, we do it for three very broad categories of people. There is the IT workforce, or the digital or the technology workforce. There is the gray and the blue collar workforce, as we understand, in entry level profiles in sales and the others. And then there's an absolute person who's coming from the informal to the formal employment for the first time. So I'll take the last one first. When we are hiring from the informal to the formal, either for the manufacturing sector or for all other sectors, for sales and all, it's the cognitive skills are what we need to get there. It's the human behavior, it's personality, it's communication, it's an ability to interact with people and sell to customers that you deal with, the end customers of the brands for which we've given the people. The bigger challenge comes when we come on the IT workforce. And the problem with the IT workforce is it's not that the talent is not coming, the talent is coming every year from graduate institutes, postgraduate institutes, and the others. But a lot of them are coming with skills which were written 10 years ago. So C++ would be a big focus area even today. Whereas the markets have evolved and the markets have gone to AI, ML, big data, Hadoop, PHP, and full stack, and so many more things. And on top of that, customers like yourself would come back and say, hey, but my customer wants something else, or my business wants something else. So what you gave me in 2021 also is outdated in 2022. So I need something different for 23. So what we've started to do is near skilling. And in the near skilling, we're telling this 437,000 people that you will have complementary skills and you need to refine yourself a bit to the next notch to be ready for what the customer wants. See, for manufacturing, it's very easy for me. If I have to send somebody inside a Seagate, and I'm not saying that they'll take a entry-level fresher that easily, but that's an assembly line. You can send a talent who has all the traits, and the rest, the kickoff will happen from the production line itself. Seagate itself would have their SOPs, which will start functioning, and you can send in an apprentice for all you know. But when it comes to digital, you cannot have a person who does not understand what needs to be done. So in near skilling, we find out what are the traits and what are the skills that you already have, what are the complements that you need to get, what is the customer or the end ecosystem asking for, and then offer solutions in courses. Till 2020, we were very proud of the fact that we are physically available everywhere in the country. And then we all knew what happened. Physical proximity became a taboo word. So people can't come to offices anymore. They wouldn't go to customers every day or meet with customers, employees every day. So everything had to be repurposed and digitally placed. And no one training institute would have everything. So we would partner with everyone, starting from, say, an NIT to all the others. And we would turn around and tell all of them that here are the courses which are available to you digitally. And these are the various channels through which we will feed you for that near scaling purpose. So I hope that was.
Very much. Thank you. So I think I will just take the last one and just paint a little bit of the Shell context. And not too many people may be aware of what we do beyond the nice convenience retail stores we've now started and very clean toilets that you can always trust in the Shell brand. But what we do is about 17,500 employees in the country, and we've got GCC spaces in IT and finance. And I've got very complex businesses running oil technology and wet and dry research labs. And we trade on the energy grid. And we've got new businesses coming in. We just acquired Spring Energy, which is renewables and solar and wind, etc. So an extremely diverse portfolio. And for us, it's the new set of skills. I mean, nobody understands carbon credits, for example, right? And it's an extremely complex way of trying to understand carbon credit. We had an ongoing joke in the office that we do scope 3 emissions, which is what customers burn in their use. And the point is we just end up planting more trees to offset these. But computing carbon credits itself is a new skill, and we don't know that. We're heading into biogas, and we're heading into electric charging. People probably see the charge points at the end of it, not a problem, but we still don't understand how do we put electricity back into the grid, and then where do we sort of get offsets from it. And in that business, it's not just technical skills. It's the people who build and who are business development folks who can actually go out and find those partnerships, vendors, decarbonization. So there's a whole range of skills and which are emerging that we don't know, that the energy industry doesn't even know. Forget it in this country, but also elsewhere. But there's also things as simple as what we spoke about, right? Cognition. And there is a whole view of you're either born with these skills or not. And so in the next 12 minutes, I'm going to try something interesting. I want to open this question out to the audience and then say something like cognitive skills. What do you believe? Do people come with it? Do you think we're able to influence it by things that we do in the company? Are we able to build it? Just open question, and any of my co-panelists as well can take that.
Have a lot to do with the culture of the organization, and as well as the problems the company is trying to solve, and how can people see themselves as a part of the problem solving experience. So through that, and are they being given opportunities to come forward and be part of that problem solving? Do they understand their role, the larger why, where they fit in? Are they allowed to make mistakes? Is there psychological safety? Keeping all those things into consideration, you certainly see people lighting up, different parts of their cognitive ability light up at times. Yeah, so definitely can be developed.
Thank you. Any other views? So culture is a very important part of how that light stays on and then continues to sort of build. Absolutely. Psychological safety, very important element of trying to build that. Any other views?
I think that cognitive abilities can be built for sure. But if you're looking at hyper learning, that's not going to happen. Cognitive abilities take time to be built, takes investment. And I think the business also needs to recognize that probably in the long run, cognitive abilities are the ones that will build your leadership pipeline, which will sustain your business. So yes, culture builds over time. It takes time to be built. Decision making improvements takes time, and there are specific people who can do that. So it's important to drive it across the organization, but also be cognizant about who are displaying those behaviors and improvements, so that you can start building that pipeline.
Very true. So back here then, anything that you guys want to add, any of you, on this, or to take that even further? Because Dev, I know in one of our prep panels, you were talking about succession planning. You were talking about when Aman had the question on how do we sort of manage the pipeline towards this. So over to any of you that want to share.
So for us, I think the way we approach to solve this problem, and I will touch upon the cognitive as well, was three-pronged, right? So number one, I think we talked about graduates, right? We do have graduates, especially for IT. And for us, it's probably the other way around. Manufacturing is very specific. We operate in clean rooms and we need very, very technical people to understand that. But on the IT side, because like I said, we need skills which cannot sometimes be built, bought, or borrowed, we started taking interns and converting a lot of them to our graduate program. So number one, we develop them because anyways, whoever comes in will have to learn these new skills, right? Number two, we launched an internal talent market, right? Now that's an AI-powered program which kind of matches the demand and supply of skills internally. And then based on those skills, you are matched to full-time jobs, part-time gigs internally. So an internal gig economy coming up there, and even mentors. So it's not just career mentoring, but you can actually have mentors on skills, which also means you can have reverse mentoring where someone young who knows something more about Python can come and teach me, for example, right? And then the third part that we did was we used this data to generate insights into what is this critical skill gap, right? Because this talent market operates not just on what your profile is today, what's the demand of skills today, but also what is the aspiration of the employee who is really interested in doing that. Along with this and identifying the critical skill gap, we launched something called Talent Acceleration Program. It's sort of like a degree where you go through a cohort and then you graduate, and then you are eligible to apply to jobs in the new focus or the areas of growth for Seagate. So this is all that what we are doing. And what's interesting about this data is that although if you look at the business and the what I mentioned earlier on products that we have, there's a lot of demand for people who are skilled in Python. There's a lot of demand for people who are skilled in Ruby on Rails, etc., cloud storage, cloud architecture, etc. But also, if I take away the hard skills, problem solving, analytical mindset, and collaboration came as the top 3 other skills that are needed, right? And that's a great shift in the way we are thinking about skills. So if I have to sum it up, I would say cognitive ability can be, or skills can be learned for sure. And I think that's the future of skills, really, because we can be great at what we are doing today, but if we are not agile, if we do not have the learning agility, we are doomed. And that includes me. So that's the philosophy we follow.
So I will obviously say yes, you can
Yes.
learn, because that's what we do for a living, right? My obvious answer would be yes. But I think what is important is that, see, the fact is we are all talking about skilling here, right? And one characteristic of skill in any field, quote unquote, other than management or office work, is that skill has to be demonstrated, right? So in any sports field or cooking or anything that, or if you're a medical practitioner, if you're a tech professional, right, you have to demonstrate your skill. You can't say you can bat but not demonstrate that you can bat, or you can cook something and not now, there's another important dimension, that demonstration has to be in a context, right? So you can bat, but can you bat on Indian pitches and England pitches? So the context on the ground in which you're playing and the match that you're playing, that is very important. And hence, I think the whole dimension of ensuring, and I think somebody from the audience said that, ensuring that the skilling interventions are very tightly coupled with what organization's context is and what they are trying to accomplish out of whatever developing or upskilling or reskilling or near skilling on that skill. That is a very, very important point. So the whole contextualization is very important. And what is equally very important is also to demystify this whole. I mean, we personally believe that I think some of this has become way too complex. It is important for companies, for organizations to know what skilling or learning is not, right? So, and it is definitely not giving access to great content or giving access to great platforms or whatever, but it is really equipping your people that in the right context of the environment of the organization, they can demonstrate the skills that they're supposed to demonstrate and achieve success. And hence, very, very important that any such learning intervention is very tightly coupled with organization's context, business goals, and most importantly, the individual learning goals and growth goals. Because, I mean, like I said in my initial comments, that's where the dichotomy is, that there is a very important element of the context of the individual. And I think most organizations, in everything that they say about learning, that our learning is engaging and we have access to this, and it is just not an additional facility that you're providing to an employee. It is his growth. And I think the part around this dichotomy is that many employees can today see through this, right? That learning is being done to retain me. Learning is being done to engage me. Employees will see through this, right? So, and I think that's where, again, going back to my earlier point, that's what we really enjoy working with our clients to solve for many of these complex problems. But again, very exciting space.
Thanks, Bimal. By the way, who's your biggest customer?
Biggest paying customer or biggest customer?
No, we'll just stick with biggest. Say it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she
Shell
wants to hear Shell.
I'm
Yeah.
glad.
So one thing I didn't understand in your answer is 2 nights ago there was a TV debate going on, and Mr. Sunil Gavaskar was there exactly a day after his 73rd birthday. And the anchor on the other side kept asking him that there's this very famous batsman. Should he continue playing for India or not? And Mr. Sunil Gavaskar, as always, Mr. Sunil Gavaskar being, he kept just defending the ball. He didn't give an answer. Today from the stage, you were repeatedly giving that answer. I think you should have been there. So I think we have to look at it from the perspective, and Bimal said it quite eloquently. We have to see it from the perspective of, are we skilling for tactical reasons? Are we skilling for life? And the important difference between the two is, when each one of us thinks, and it does not matter what B school we went to and what degrees do we have or we don't have, the lack of therein, I think the important element is each human would have a glass ceiling. And that glass ceiling would come at different points of time for different people. The only thing which can unshackle that and probably allow you to elevate yourself to the next level is that skilling. So if you're doing it for a tactical reason today in your organization or at your client premises or at your workplace, that's fine. But it might just give you a runway for 1, 2, or 3 years. It will eventually catch up if you're not doing skilling for life. And to do skilling for life, we have to do a combination of both technical and non-technical. The difference being that in everybody's life, beyond a point, it's the non-technical which will take a bit of a backseat. Many of us will become people managers. Many of us will be in positions of power to take decisions which impact balance sheets of companies and probably shareholders' value thereafter. And those decisions are not technical decisions. So if you can constantly keep doing that skilling for life and whatever needs to change, then probably you're going to remain up to date. Yeah.
He took away the summary from me. So I'm not really going to say too much beyond that. And I just want to be very proud of our panel for having done the 000 mark, not without actually saying, as a very quick point, that this can be as complex and yet as simple. The idea is to break it down into parts, into what can be done across a short, medium, and longer term story. There is the flex between technical and the non-technical, so important. The way culture plays in, the way psychological safety plays in, the way rapid interventions like succession planning and talent acceleration plays in, and how context also comes together. A lot for us to think about, nothing that you probably haven't heard, but when you get down to your own paper and drawing board, your reality probably comes alive far more. With that, I'm going to hand this mic back because we did a very respectful audience round as well, what you wouldn't allow previously, and I'm sure we're voted the best. Thank you.